The story tells us about a shaman, 15 years ago, because he was the chief of Sapa. Some of the Mutang clan cursed him and called him evil. The guy's rage reached a breaking point and he couldn't take it anymore. A war, known as the Big One, broke out. It was a grand battle. Except the lad wasn't part of it. His target was the Mutang clan. Burned down 3 of the clan's palaces, and beheaded the elders and the chief. He only tried to find an answer to why he was accused of sins, but the people went to war. Even though a truce was made, the authority of the Mutang, which had been a sacred place for Taoism for 1,000 years, had weakened, and it became the lowest of the 9 kung fu clans. Owing to his unwavering and clear mind, memories of the past clearly resurface in his mind. The apprentice, the elders, wept on the sidelines. The loyal comrades in arms who had created the Sapacon with him. Only Cheon Yu-myung wasn't around. He's a good guy. Even though he's flawed, he's very loyal. He even went in search of the herb of eternal youth. I'm starting to choke more and more, it seems my time has come. I'm already 80 years old. Ilwon Magyu clan Chonmu Maing, my name was Hukran Mugen. That became his name. Betrayal and deceit was the cause that exalted Sapa. For almost 40 years the man was king and ruled in Sapa. How can a man go against the will of heaven? When the time comes, one should leave. Now, I am very sorry. Oh, I feel the life leaving me with every movement. I can hear my faithful servants talking about me with sorrow in their voices. Damn it, why isn't he dead yet? I wish he was dead already. Said the lads. The Reaper of Death appeared before the old man. Iron Sword Cheon Wu-myung ran into the room. The old man was glad to see the guy before he died. It turns out Cheon Wu-myung found the herb of eternal youth after all. Please eat it. The old man was frightened that the Death Reaper had already called his Ymir 2 times. The subject tried to shove the root into his mouth, but the Reaper had already called Ymir 3 times, so the old man's soul left his body. But in an instant, the old man was pulled back into his body. The Reaper tried to pull him back, but he failed. Regained consciousness, the guy couldn't move. Feeling as if his bones were breaking, the Reaper transferred the old man's soul into the body of his young mentor. Abandoned by his parents. Left alone, he met a kind Taoist monk. The cursed master of Sapan has seriously harmed him, causing his chakra to stiffen. To save the master, he set out to find healing strains on Mount Mutang. The monks used the technique of holy Taoist energy. Wo Ymir Buddha Almighty. You saved the life of a kid who risked his life for you. Everything is connected. The monks decided to make the lad a disciple of Myeongjin, as the 6 yang energy was now imprisoned in him. He will be Myeongjin's first disciple. If you allow me, I will diligently teach him. Supreme Elder, I am immensely grateful to you for your kindness. Said Myeongjin. The first generation of apprentices adopts part of the teacher's name, i.e. Genie. The boy was decided to be called Jinmu. He did not like it very much. It was a very cheesy, true Taoist nickname. He heard it and he got goosebumps. It was in the guy's mind. For the sake of Jinmu's recovery, exorcise disappear. Disappear, disappear. May all demons and evil spirits leave this body. Healing, may this tormented body recover quickly. Now in a completely ruined Mutanga, he became a disciple called Jinmu. Because of the concentration of energy in the body 6 yang, all the power that was in the guy turned into ashes. The great Hyukranmung can't even master the technique of the wood dragon. Whenever teacher Myeongjin called out to the lad, he unknowingly answered politely. It was all from the reflexes that remained in the lad's body. Like a controlling Kimgango bracelet controlling Ogong's dream, the memories left behind in that head controlled the actions. During the fall of Mutang, this scumbag, despite burning himself half to death, blocked my path, and guarded the Jisa palace to the very last. Myeongjin was one of the great disciples of the time. He had a special spirit, and the decision to let him live was a big mistake. We should have killed him. Everything about the mutant should have been destroyed. Jinmu fretted, all politeness from the body of the former guy, absolute lord of Murim, master of Sapacon, Hukranmungan. Chopping vegetables, masterly brewing soup, putting all his soul, prepared a meal for the teacher. Jinmu was able to fill the sword with energy. The teacher marveled. This is remarkable. Even after years of training, filling a sword with energy is no easy task, but it only took you 3 months. It had already been 3 months of training since he recovered. Myeongjin is unable to apply martial arts in practice because of his closed chakra. So he has been explaining the essence of 6 yang energy verbally all this time. Explained it from the beginning. Maybe it's because you have 6 yang energy in your body. If you learn one thing, then the rest, no, even if you are talented it takes more time to master it. But I don't see the logic, pondered Myongjin. Everything is even logical, as the soul of a Murim Lord, the master of Sapakon, is hidden inside past life experiences are taking their toll, and Jinmu seems like a talented little guy to the teacher. And yet the boy makes concessions every day, even humbles himself and begins to eat his vegetables. Compared to the fast-paced and yet dangerous martial art of Sapa, this one is more systematic and safer. It was popular for a reason. The boy was getting deeper and deeper into training. He remembered his first martial arts classes, so he was so concentrated that he did not notice how time passed. And so 1 year flew by. Jinmu's skills were honed. The Kai energy did not increase. Of course he had become stronger in a year, but it was not enough for him, he wanted more. He wanted to skip several stages as before, but it was not possible due to the confrontation of internal forces. It is necessary to reach the absolute level as soon as possible. I wish I could reduce all my training to 0. However, a lot of things have been done in the last year, thought the boy. I wonder if this second apprentice knows what politeness is or if he is only capable of delivering grits. It hit the guy, he remembered the dual energy technique. The technique of concentrating 2 energies in one body has been secretly passed down in Mutang for generations. Did you know that the technique had been around for a long time before Hyukren Mungan was even born? No doubt in a Mutang who would have learned the dual energy technique in practice, the martial art of Hyukren Mugen and the holy Taoist energy in harmony. Then he will be able to use the dark dragon technique again. In order to gain the cherished knowledge of Jinmu, one must become an apprentice of the Supreme Elder. All of his students will be competing for a place in the sun, not only students from the palace, but from other palaces as well. If you see the high road, all you have to do is go for it. According to tradition, the best will be the strongest. We have to get rid of all the disciples one by one, then I will take the place of the head disciple. He murmured. Jinmu body is always worried about the teacher. Every time he tries to leave the Mutang mountain, his legs return. To get rid of this condition, he decides he first needs to take care of his mentor's health. And there is only one way, emyaso. The sick man needs emyaso. Meat is the best thing you can think of for recovery. After taking care of Jin's recovery and becoming a master apprentice, all the boy has to do is learn the double energy technique. I'm from Manhwa Palace, apprentice Qianwu. I brought groceries. He no doubt doesn't put in his best effort. If he tried, he wouldn't gain too much weight eating only grass. In my mind Jdinmu, Taiyuri from the Wanhwa Palace, so why aren't you training at all? So I don't have any training today. If I go, I have nothing to do anyway. Can I practice here too, brother? The fat guy was an outcast in his surroundings, no one wanted to train with him. Jinmu, he reminded me of Cheonyu Mu. A rude but loyal guy. Even when beaten, he always kept a positive attitude. The only person from Sapakon that Jinmu misses. Jinmu let the lad train on the sidelines. At first the lad seemed to be lazy, but in fact he is training diligently. But he doesn't take his body proportions into consideration. Qianwu is full. No matter how you look at it, his movements are heavy and slow. So it's easy for an opponent to anticipate his moves. If his arms are short, he needs to use other moves than the basics, like working with his legs more often, but he doesn't have a partner to teach him that. Why are you so chaotic with your punching technique? Asked the Mu. You are huge and fat. Only by practicing in pairs can you practice your punches and learn how to mislead your opponent. Even if you practice with the prettiest tree, it won't do much good, understand? Jinmu started explaining how to properly conduct Chunsung fist fighting techniques. We need to teach him as soon as possible so that he gets rid of the wrong fighting technique. Qianwu rushed out with his fists, but Jinmu beat him to it, and put his fist in front of his face. So Qianwu's training continued. He wouldn't give up until the last moment and kept moving, a stubborn fellow. If he had understood it on the first or second time, but no, it was only on the 20th that he stopped making unnecessary lunges, that silly boy. He would only hinder Jinmu's path to becoming a head disciple. Jinmu chased the poor guy away, threatening to kill him if he came back again. The next day, Jinmu thought he could begin his training in peace, but then Jin apprenticed from Wanhwa, Jin Ho. His mentor from the Chill generation is one of the top 7 Mutang masters. How dare you teach him mean tricks in this sacred place? You bastard, said the Jinho. I can't close my eyes to this. They decided to have a fight. Jinmu was the first to rush in with high speed. He aimed for the acupuncture point of the spiritual gates. In Mutang, this swordsmanship technique is called Spiritual Gate 13 swords, but instead of smooth transitions, they are sharp and very fast. Technique Spiritual Gate 13 swords. Its essence is that by pushing on the point of spiritual gate, you can deprive the opponent of his weapon, thus winning the fight. And to achieve this, there are 13 techniques in Mutanga. There's a rule that says, the spirit of the swordholder must not wish the opponent's death. But aiming at the points, eyes, and groin is a Sapa technique. It is a vile and despicable martial art. Knock the sword out of his hands. He's been waiting for the right moment to make his move. To achieve such a thing in just 1 year, amazing. Reminiscent of his mentor when he was an apprentice, Jinmu's perfect successor. Jinmu punches the guy in the face. After beating the lad up, the fat man took him to the hospital. Word of Jinmu's victory will spread at the speed of light, thanks to the chutzpah of Cheonwoo and the Chongdong Palace Hospital. Power solves everything. The monks were amazed that Jinmu defeated the Jinho of the Cheol generation. When the godless Hukran invaded Mutang, burned down 3 palaces and killed everyone who was there. The next day, Cheonwoo went out to train with Jinmu by his side. Jinmu was against it, the boy would only disturb him, but the teacher told him to help him with his martial arts. Jinmu made the boy obey him, so he went to prepare food. In Mutanga, if you are a master, you must follow certain morals. One of them is the absolute prohibition of food of animal origin. If one eats emyaso before the yang energy is born in the chakra, it will not accumulate and the chi energy will increase. This is why in Mutanga all students are strictly forbidden to eat emyaso. Herbs and grains are the main thing in the diet of the trainees. I eat some from time to time too. Jinmu and Mentor have been eating emyaso for a long time. Mentor, eat as much as you can, you will need a lot of energy to heal after your advice to eat emyaso. I feel my strength has increased. 2 months ago I couldn't even go out. The purpose of Jinmu, to stop worrying about the preceptor, is to get out of the Mutang. The Supreme Elder and the monks have arrived. The elder saw the preceptor eating emyaso, made him defend himself, and the latter in turn, replied that it was not a sin to lose all his energy for this vile creep from Sapacon and was left with only pain. Can you imagine what it was like for me then? Seeing my older brothers and elders die on the battlefield, do you know how sad it is to see their loved ones hurt and not doing anything? At the same time 3 sides began to fight in Murim. If the Great War were to continue, the Ilvomagyu clan, waiting and increasing their forces, would only be at an advantage. So the alliance, wishing to prevent such an outcome, saved the Mutang by concluding a truce. After that, however, everyone turned their backs on the Mutang, the clan was forgotten and fell into decline. If you are strong everyone is ready to help you, but if you are weak everyone will turn away from you. This is the law of Murim. A mentor who was bedridden for 10 years was able to walk near the temple. The monks were surprised. Because they are not allowed to kill, they could not fight the Sape Tune, and the 3 palaces that were burned down have not been rebuilt yet. Enough, shouted the elder. I will settle this matter. Let me speak to Myeongjin alone. Next day. Jinmu, come. You have 3 sins on your conscience. He encouraged his mentor to break one of the commandments. Second, he changed his sword technique and trained a junior without permission. Thirdly, he broke the chain of command by injuring the older apprentice. As punishment, the genie was instructed to restore the Himunjin pond within a month. And in the future he is allowed to consume emyaso as needed. Hemungjin Pond and Hemungak Palace. This place will escape those who went to Mutang with the war. This place is the pride of Mutang. All the disciples except Jinmu are from the ancient clans of Mutang. The fact that the Doden, aka Jinmu, are not of high status and are not related by blood, but are on the same level as them, greatly hurts their pride. By changing techniques, he defeated the Jinho, and by breaking a commandment, he did not incur any serious punishment. On the first day he and Jinmu and Chinyu if roast, on the second day welded, then roast again. Brother, I'd like you to meet a senior student of Cheon-san. He wanted to know a lot about it, but Chernwoo couldn't explain it to him, so he brought him. Myeongjin thinks so. Mutang must change. Jinmu has been heaven sent. Cheon-san has already mastered the technique of the soaring cloud sword. Among the Chon generation, few have managed to advance even to the intermediate level. Though talented, the neglect of the masters takes its toll, for the family's low status and lack of clan kinship is not a bad thing. Jinmu ordered the boy to remove the stone. The boy failed at first, but after showing him a few tricks in the form of arching his back, putting his fingers together and pressing his calves against the stone. Impossible! How did he make it so easy? Jinmu actually passed some chi around, under the guise of helping the kid lift the boulder, but Cheon-san didn't notice that. They caught the chickens and roasted them, offering Cheon-san a piece, but he refused. So far only the ban on meat food has been eliminated. Though difficult in the beginning, it will get easier from now on. If the changes continue, there will be no trace of the commandments, then not only emyaso, but also alcohol and ladies will become commonplace. And the result will be loss of morality and utter destruction. The writhing and malice-eating elders, playing to the audience, clinging to the maidens and drinking alcohol. That's the world full of delights. And so, by becoming the head disciple, the Jinmu will learn to control the six-yang energy, and then make the good guy take the place of the supreme elder. This will be the moral downfall of the Mutang. Moral degradation will be suffered by others as well. Mutang will become ASAP. An alliance of united political forces will become a SAPA. Hey, Cheon-san. You seem bored, don't you want to pair up with Cheon-woo? You're going to beat Cheon-woo. Jinmu can transfer energy into a sword, even though it's not much of a surprise to first-tier students, but even among them there are not many who have mastered the technique. Do I despise you? Fighting with Cheon-woo. I want to say something before we begin. All are equal before the sword, for it is blind. Whoever heard that would think is the strongest Matanga master. You won't use a real sword? Your demands are impossible. The precepts forbid the use of real weapons in sparring. He said he would not give meat if Cheon-yu lose, and gave exact instructions on how and what to do in pooing. Funny how a man can change if given the motivation. Cheon-woo lunged at the guy using the step pakdu technique. It's where the steps change depending on the movements. That's what you use before you change your attack technique. He disappeared. Crouching on the ground, he used a dragon retreat technique, so he was able to dodge my attack and hit back immediately. At this point, the guy felt like he was fighting a warrior or an outstanding student. The lazy donkey lying on the ground technique is a technique all factions consider shameful and cowardly. Cheon-woo, roll around, on the side where the enemy has the sword. Cheon-woo, did you get it? Cheon-san, not expecting such sudden action, will be confused. His movements will become sprawling. If he uses too much force in the floating cloud sword technique, it will be the perfect opportunity to counterattack. Kyongsan technique, Cheon-san lost the battle. He hit you, all because of your hasty attack. If he had a real sword, you'd be dead by now. Shouted the Jinmu. If I had a real weapon in my hand? Yes, what he said would have been true, because he got hit in the back of the head. Jinmu apologized. That Jinmu had lost his hopes of his victory. If he had won, then another disciple might have morally fallen. Jong-san said before he. Some time after the fight, Jong-sang started visiting more often and also started eating meat, which made Jinmu suspicious. It seemed to him that he was coming to them for some sort of gain. And luckily, he asked the protagonist about the weaknesses of the sword technique he was using in battle. The guy realized that he could use him as he wished for his own purposes because of his interest in the weaknesses of his sword technique. It was reported to the chief elder that these lads had again broken the commandment and were eating meat without even hiding it. The elder reflected that Jinmu is an excellent student, and has mastered many techniques simply according to his teacher, and his skills are increasing day by day, although he also cares for his mentor to get well. Jinhu, who had inflicted punishment on the boys, asked if he could bring them to the hall for punishment, but the elder ignored him and said he would do so sometime later. The lad went to the meeting at Hamunjin. Accidentally forgetting that guests were due to arrive, they sat and ate meat, but suddenly they saw people approaching them from two sides. They immediately started to clean up the trail of meat, and Jung-woo and Jung-san went to meet the guests, but Jin-nu realized their mistake, although he didn't have time to tell them that. They hadn't washed their face, and it was noticed by one of the parties when they were greeted. Pupils, pick up the goods. Yes. The three students took the goods from the elderly man as well. They also handed over their details to one of the arrivals. Oh, shouldn't have said the head of the trade guild. Jinhu replied to the chairman, aren't we strangers? The main road is difficult, but we must continue on our way. Let's go through. Jinmu suspiciously turned on the chairman of the trade guild, suspecting that he was a crook, and the protagonist thought it was all somehow suspicious of the five-giver to look like a guest, but he is seen behaving like the master of the situation, with Jinmu following behind him as if he should. Who's that? Isn't that the main trade eater in the Takana region? I don't know the details, but I have heard that they have been trading Takana for 3 generations. And Jinmu was very surprised, because when he was still a high Ukrainian, his love of money was so great that he could get up over the ringing of coins. So he investigated all about the leading trade guilds and their middlemen. But he had no information about the guilds if they were new, but they had been around for 3 generations. That's nearly 60 years. Since he hadn't heard of this Jedi, it must be clandestine. And the arrogant apprentices of the first tier trying their best to please the chairman? Something is not right. It seemed to him that there was something between these two. And his intuition had never failed him. The protagonist realized that the chairman of the guild was a sneaky man. He used a secret method of physiognomy based on Hugh Kremugen's 80 years of experience, which he called the bandit's face. He looked at the eyes, the ears on his chin, and he also noticed that the chairman had a goatee. It seemed to him that he would not look for profit in such a place. So the protagonist decided to investigate. Follow me, quickly. What? What about the job? That's all right, we've done enough. Exclamations, but first, the Meitais. Especially the year, it's covered in oil. Didn't I wash my face this morning? To thank you for the invitation, I have prepared a small present for you, said the chairman. He brought a chest full of silver as well as more than 10 swords. I don't know if you will like it. The Mutanga chief elder was very pleased with the gift. Over the last 10 years the financial situation of the Mutang had been deteriorating. They couldn't even properly deal with the students, because they kept having to save their clothes. They were embarrassed in front of the pupils all the time. The chairman is so generous. I don't know how to thank you. Oh, you shouldn't. Said the chairman, it's me who should be thankful that we Mutang do business with my guild. Wasn't it Jin He who arranged everything? Jin He is an apprentice of the first tier. He is the heir to a prominent family in Tarkan. He only turned 30 this year and has already become the pride of Mutang. There are high expectations for him. If it wasn't for Jin He, I might have had the chance to introduce such people to Murim. All credit goes to him, said the chairman, who was very happy that Jin He had done so much. The meeting was facilitated by not coming up with any dissection for the bones, but the guests said it was fine and there was no need. They just wanted to throw in the main temple. They said they would be honored if the elders would let them pray for the family's health. Though he thought he was a bad man at first sight, he understood that it was not at all like the proverb says, clothes don't make the man look good. Chairman was going to leave, but the elder stopped him and invited him to stay for a while. He declined and said he was not yet accustomed to the local atmosphere. The elder was not sorry to part ways with the chairman and suggested he watch the training of Mutang apprentices and light the main temple. But if you leave, I cannot refuse. Thank you. In the meantime, let me leave you. I will show you around a little later. At the end there was a dialogue between the two parties. Everybody was very happy, because they thought that everything will work out and how much they will be able to revive the Mutang clan. Some were even crying tears of happiness. Everyone present in the receiving room began to discuss what the traders needed from them after all. They thought about it and decided that they need military support because their caravans are often attacked by bandits. They were glad because they were able to show their martial arts in action. Jin He made the elders very happy by starting military preparations in advance. Yes. What did you come up with? The instructor had been training with us for a month and we had begun to learn the 9 swords technique. After the merchants accepted, they went outside and started talking. Right-hand chairman Li Chi-sung was surprised at the chairman's actions and the fact that he gave away a whole chest of silver as a gift. He asked why they didn't give this money to another clan who would protect them. He was told that they wouldn't get the same support from him as from the Mutang clan. He was told that other stronger clans wouldn't want to do business with them if they knew what they were doing, smuggling. At the same time Jinmu was watching their conversations and eavesdropping. Yongyun Palace dozens of warriors practice their swordsmanship in front of the audience. So, Jin He, everyone has warmed up, so start masturbating the 9 palace sword technique. Jinmu eagerly waited for the 9 palace sword technique to be shown. Jin He told all the warriors who were showing sword skills to get into position to perform the 9 palace sword technique. The pride of Mutang, one of the highest sword techniques, is the 920s technique, the essence of which is that 9 men take one fighting position and simultaneously strike the enemy. At first it appears as if the card is moving in its own direction, but the movement is well precise, clawing and unclawing at the same time, driving the opponent into a corner. Only a leader skilled in the martial arts is able to hone the skills of each student so that all will do as one. Jinmu started his elder to the non-ideal concentration of those who perform the techniques of the 9 palace swords. He said that even though he didn't have much experience, he could tell that the fighters didn't have enough concentration to perform this technique. The elder thought that he had a great talent because only Mikum had looked into performing this technique. He was able to see the flaws, and even find a solution to the problem. He was so surprised by his insight that he asked if this was the first time he had seen this technique. However, he immediately apologized and said that perhaps because of his inexperience he had said some nonsense. The elder asked the chairman how he liked the spectacle. He replied that he really liked the performance of the students. Stacy also started talking about Jinmu. He said that he was very talented and that he had high hopes. Even the chief elder had noticed his abilities. He says that even though he has only been practicing for a year, he has already achieved a lot. After this, the chairman got a strange look at Jinmu, which he noticed. But the main character has already figured out their plan, and he also overheard a dialogue that took place between the chairman and his assistants a little earlier. You see, if we give the money to the 7U, we'll waste it too. But Mutang is weak. Weak? No, he has to keep being the same. Then other merchants won't come here. What? Let Mutang be enough. People say differently about him. He's been considered the chief Taoist clan of the Chonwan for 1,000 years. And even a 3-year-old knows that this is the only place that really followed the canons of Taoism. If word gets out that the Mutang might be our ally, and how will it all come back if we add to that we have helped financially the weakening Mutang? Our reputation in Chonwan will change. We are constantly being watched by the police, but if just one prominent Mutang master will help us, then the attitude of the police towards us will be different. But will the Mutang act at the behest of the police? Especially when word gets out about our plans. Is that all you're worried about? There's an opportunity for the Mutang to become the head disciple. Whoever becomes the next supreme elder. Until now, no one in Mutanga has taken that place. I plan to put Jinhe there. Let the family agree to help Mutang, and make every effort to make Jinhe the head disciple when he takes over the position, to pay for it for you. After all, he has no idea that we are using him to suck all the juices out of Mutang. Later, when we clean up our act, he will repent to us. Jinmu was sure that imagine and regret his investment that he won't earn anything from this clan while he's here. The protagonist was angry at the villain and at Jinhu. He wanted to become the head apprentice to get the double whammy he needed, to use the Dark Dragon technique without a row, to regain his former power. But only the head apprentice can master it. By gaining the power I will be able to control the essence of the Jinmu, but to get to that point, I need a Mutang. He didn't understand how these cockroaches risked crossing his path. For the sake of his goal he was ready to do anything. He wanted to destroy the conspiracy, completely wipe it out. With a grudge against his teacher, the main character thought that in order to destroy such a guild he had to gather all the information about it. What he didn't notice was his teacher starting to call out to him. He asked why he was thinking so hard. He replied that he hadn't thought about anything important. At that very moment Cheon-woo told the teacher that things were getting better and there would be fewer problems soon. Because of this the teacher thought that when he saw the lowly people in him, Ipapasita had awakened. And for him it was no surprise, as it had been 20 years since he had left the mountain like the other apprentices. He regretted that the main character was attached to the place because of him and his state of health. The teacher asked Jinmu what day tomorrow was. He replied that tomorrow was the 3rd day of the month. In response the teacher smiled at him. 2 days later it dawned. The teacher called Yulin over the hero and he immediately ran and asked what was the matter. He said he wanted to go to Jisoo's palace. What? In this windy weather? He began to worry that his teacher would blow away and all his efforts to cure him were in vain. He calmed down and said it was all right, he wouldn't get winded. He was warmly dressed and called him along. Monthly meeting. A meeting of elders is convened systematically in the Mutanga under the leadership of the chief elder. There is a need for events to take place. I will be traveling to the forthcoming venues and there is talk of training. It's not just the elder, but the students of the first tier who are in charge of the inner life of the palaces. Jinmu was surprised that they were attending a meeting for the first time. With the teacher he pondered that Myeongjin is not in charge of any palace, still a creative life in a small temple, so all the time he did not come here. On the way they met a former disciple. He apologized for visiting his teacher but he reacted calmly and strangely, asking how he was doing and if there was anything about the gas. He said that the main character had taught him a lot and started laughing. He also offered to walk them in. To which they agreed. Everyone welcomed the Mon teacher. Everyone was very happy to see him. The chief elder also met and welcomed Myeongda. He started to say that he should take care of his health and not walk so far, but he reassured him by saying that his disciple had taken care of his comfortable journey here. The chief elder offered to go inside and go out. It was very cold outside today. He was surprised that everyone was greeting them so well and I was expecting a catch, but it was explained to him that his teacher is the most respected elder in Mutanga. The elder and his teacher before his chakra shut down were students of the new Mutanga generation and showed great promise, but when Sapakon's master suddenly attacked, he went all the way out trying to protect his students. We Tankian are a symbol of true fortitude and resilience. Absolutely everyone admires him. After a while, in the hall where the seven stood, they decided what to do and the high-ranking person asked if anyone else had anything on the agenda. Master Myung raised his hand and said that he was afraid that their agreement was a glorious second idea. The Supreme Elder was surprised. Of course he organized everything, but we don't know exactly what their plans are and where they came from, so the careless use of funds is not the wrong thing to do, I think. He said. He thought it was necessary to direct the pupils not to observe them. He wanted the boys to follow them on the pretext of helping them. At the moment there is an ode that sends the contracted ore, but nothing paha weak, and show talents very much to whom ton. I will not live off the guild that it will benefit them. Yahoo and Shiton decided it wasn't a bad idea but he couldn't figure out who he wanted to send there. The teacher immediately said he would give his student to go there without a second thought. Everyone quickly agreed with their decision and supported the main character to go to the trading guilds. They were whether he should get ready with his packing. Jinhu was very angry because his plans were about to be ruined. Jinhu had turned many people against the protagonist saying that he had broken a commandment he had never been punished. And he said that even if the chief elders of the assembly decided not to punish him, the decision of the assembly may not always be, because everyone makes mistakes. And we said to take back what we had said because only the elected divine. They, the members of famous families who wanted to do great things, enlightenment Mutanga, they are competing to take the place of the chief disciple, so they will lie responsible for the next generation. He said he was a hero to the peasant, that he took advantage of his mentor's state of mind to dare to question the excitement of the sinful elders and others, by deceiving a great many disciples into eating meat. According to him he was destroying centuries-old traditions of Mutang. He was sure that only cruel punishment would save his soul from so many sins. He was stopped and told to be quiet. Jinhu was asked if he was jealous of the protagonist. Thanks to the fact that his teacher started eating meat he got better. Didn't you see teacher Myung-jin? He's the one who asked for meat and you can walk around. And hasn't the ban already been lifted? They started to argue and it was an argument but they were stopped in time. They were told that no one has the right to discuss the decision to take the meeting. Both sides of the conflict broke up. They began to discuss the main character liked and his different approach to martial arts, nor did they think he was a very talented guy. I don't like Jinmu for everyone. Cheon-san has been through a lot too. Don't you think it's because of the older students? Although the main character and his mentor went out in the morning, they came back in the evening, walking up the stairs leading to the temple where they lived, and they said they adored their teacher. He admired the fact that he did not even say what he had decided to go out, even though he was still sick. The teacher asked him, "Are you glad you can come down from the mountain? Just don't carry it away, have a good rest and come back. What if I am offered meat or alcohol I am allowed to taste them?" His master replied that when he was still young he had also come down the mountain and taken wine, so there was nothing wrong with it. When they arrived at the top of the mountain, Cheon-woo and Chong-su greeted them. They asked if he already prepared to go on a trip and offered to accompany him because they should help their teacher. He was surprised and asked what the students were up to. He was told that he and Jinyu had become his students. He even wished them to have a good trip and gave them some money. He refused to let them go on the travel system. He wanted someone better in a companion, but they begged him to the last to take them along. Jin-san stands somewhere in Napa not far away, and looking at the homie held, the protagonist started to remember his childhood, which his grandfather Yu Ju-mun sent him to Mutang. The future of the family and the Takana is in your hands. You have to make sure that we, the family, like the Jong clan, are recognized as warriors. His grandfather told him. The Yu family used to have control over the bandits who got the dirty deeds of the Takana hairpins. So the grandfather took the path of a warrior. Until now he had constantly worked hard to become a renowned apprentice Mutanga. That was why he was convinced that the chief apprentice should be his. After the supreme Mutanga elder, he lasted all these 20 years just to take it in. He thought that all these efforts of his, the Jinmu decided to destroy him. And he couldn't let that sound get in his way, but even if, after all, anything could happen in the house. Amidst the 10 commandments of Mutanga, there is one that you must never break to kill a comrade. But he's not the only one who breaks the rules. Before leaving Mutang, the elders of all the palaces must be notified of their departure. But the palaces are not just far apart, they are located dozens of kilometers away, and I have to visit. At Manhwa Palace, he was given what appeared to be new, hemmed-in clothes. At Yeongjung, he listened for half an hour to what a novice could and could not do when he went beyond the mountain. At Wujin, he listened to the relationship with people, and at Oko Palace, he was given a sword symbolizing primordial chaos. At Gyeongdong he was given medicine for first aid, masses, and me for a wound, bandages and more to notify the Supreme Elder that he was leaving. This is the procedure every Mutanga apprentice must follow before leaving. And the protagonist thinks it's best to simplify the whole ordeal, because he hasn't even left yet, but he's already very tired. The Supreme Elder asks if he and his disciples are going. Jinmu answered in the affirmative. He praised him and said they were clever, so they would be useful. He also warned them that it was their first trip, so he asked them to check before they left. Also be careful with the prices of the goods and don't go to deserted places. All these formalities to leave the mutant bore the hell out of the guy. This is the real way of Taoism. Then it was a joy to cross the Hemanjin pond. Even the air felt fresh to me. He trusted his disciples to hold his weapons and belongings. I figured it would take me 50 kilometers to get from the mutant to the main trade guild. Running or riding it would take a quarter of a mile. So they hurried to the main trading guild. So they enthusiastically embarked on their first journey. I wish I could say that. But before they'd gone a couple of marbles, they were in trouble. They met bandits who told them to give up all their money. Despite all the changes in the world, there will always be Bastaloks who will take away the novice's money. Cheon-sam wondered how they dared to come their way right at the entrance of the mountain, and he said he wouldn't let them get away with it, and that they would pay for their deed. The protagonist still couldn't get used to the nasty bandits. During his absence from this real world, they haven't changed one bit. So instead of dealing with them, he put one of their students to deal with the bandits. He warned them that if they surrendered their weapons none of them would get hurt. But the bandits were overconfident and started attacking. He skillfully dodged the blows. Most of the attackers were already exhausted, but there were two whose movements were quite good. He assumed they were in charge, sending their subordinates ahead and waiting for an opportunity. Chung-san has become much stronger by learning from the main character. He can now channel energy into his sword, and is able to move up a few notches. But he was attacked and his sword was knocked out of his hands and wounded in his left shoulder. Unlike in training, there are no definite tactics in reality. It all depends on one's confidence and will to survive. Those who, like Kyongsun, only seemed at Marime without proper training, succumbing to such a fight would be confused. And without concentration one begins to make a series of stupid mistakes. And because of that, it follows that even a weak opponent will defeat you. Cheon-sang was almost killed by the sword, but the main character got there in time and stopped the sword with his bare hands. Jinmu asked the court of the strongest thugs if they were hired. One of the attackers decided to flee. But the lad caught him in the first second and started questioning him. He asked what they would do and who hired them. The perp didn't want to answer questions, but he broke his arm for it. Afterwards he broke his leg as well. All the bandits thought he was crazy because he was the only novice they had met who had done such a thing. They all thought that if they got hold of him he would either maim or kill them, so they all gave up and told him everything. If the attackers are to be believed, they are from a bandit organization called Palyang who would be a Takane. They mostly hustle for money on the street, but their boss and pal Ryan ordered them to ambush Mutanga Mountain today and then go and see off the 3 novices. Those 2 are called the 2 sons of Sabona. To support this information, they thought it would be easy to capture the 3 children. But the protagonist didn't understand why, since the Mutang have been very weak since the invasion of Sapa, even though they used to be incredibly strong. He asks how strong and famous these 2 devils are. He is told that in the backstreets of Takana they are regarded as masters of their craft. They had heard that the 2 had killed some famous warrior, so they were hiding there. Jinmu took all the bandits' money and said their leader must not know about it. He really wanted to meet him. The bandits from the cloth said that they would get out of this road for living honestly. That they would never do anything bad again. The apprentices of the protagonist were surprised that even though the bandits attacked her, they now ran away with fear. The boy told his disciples to carry the 2 Sibong devils as they could get down from that mountain as quickly as possible. Takana Territory, Panshin Village. Panshin Administration. Jinmu told his students to rest and went to talk to his boss. They were very happy to finally be able to rest, for while they were walking he kept making sure they were faster. Qianwu didn't understand if the teacher did the right thing. Thought that even if they lost the robbers, but 2 of them beaten so cruelly. On the contrary, the other one was illuminated by the teacher and those outlaws placing nooks and crannies, everyone hated them. But now will they do evil? He asked. Did you not see their faces when they fled? There was fear and terror on their faces and they were completely overwhelmed. They ran away to the opposite side of Takana and are unlikely to return. Chion-san, she said that because of the gang of bandits he lost his family. They killed not only his family but also the tops indecent citizens. If it wasn't for Teacher Manhwa who happened to be around, he wouldn't be here either. Teacher defeated the bandits and escorted them to prison. And then there was the bribe they gave the warden, and Voila, freedom. And the cheeky bandit life again. He said he would never forgive those bastards, and when they'd destroy them themselves to him. That's why he was so interested in the sword-wielding technique. He must suppress that desire. But his teacher Jinmu is not like that. Thanks to him it has become clear what the true enlightenment is. He says that even more outlawry is being used to the horror of the epaulets. For them it sounded like, if you do something wrong, I will definitely find you and punish you. No doubt that is the thought that stuck in their heads. There are such people. People who walk in the path of suffering, in this world. And today he has made an important decision. Now he will obey and follow his teacher, who has chosen this path of suffering and torment without question. The protagonist dealt with the reward for the bandits they had caught and asked for at least 1 more coin as they were wounded and their clothes fell off. But he was told that their faces were from the clans. It was impossible to even believe who they were. He was given the coins and asked for the head of the faction by name and pal Ryan. He was told that this faction was Paliane. And their lithium keeps slipping away because of justice. Jinmu asked what the reward would be for his capture. He was very happy to see the monetary reward for his capture was as much as 20 coins. His day he was going to catch him, and they told him that they had also tried to catch him, and more than once, but that he was such a good martial artist and such a good quality that all their attempts had failed. The protagonist wanted to find the scoundrel's secret lair. Playing house, a night market, a block of pubs. Constantly checking locations, they couldn't catch him. He was surprised where was their professionalism. Anyway, he had something to talk to him about and he also wanted an income. That was why he wanted to see the palm of his hand. When he went out he heard from his students that they would follow him all his life and that they respected him a lot. He was surprised at what had happened to them. He thought they had been traveling with a heavy load, and it must have been hard for them. They were exhausted, hungry, and that was why they had gone mad. He calmed them down and called them to dinner, and he made them very happy that in honor of the first day of their journey they would taste the tastiest meat. Think of the sun and the moon. The landlord has built this inn on a place surrounded by mountains. That's why it's like the moon floating on the sea, immersed in greenery. It's inspiring, isn't it? Not really. They didn't deny themselves anything. They ordered meat by mail and even took a bottle of wine. All the people sitting around the table started to discuss the fact that the Mutang clan had finally fallen. They were surprised that they had come all the way here and not stopped by the bandits, so they wanted to find and finger Ryanai to find out what happened. The first lord of the Zhu Takana, Zhu Kalhyung. He noticed that the Mutang monks had been gone for a long time. He was explained to him by Zhu's bodyguard Gunapok Kaehu that after the disaster, They were driven away by the Jiu clan and began to lead a creative life. The First Lord was characterized by whether Mutang eat meat and whether alcohol was banned. We still met the sword hand, the unprotected lower body. 2 vulnerabilities. And there's no way to fix it. How inexperienced you are. You threw yourself at the guy. Hit the ball with the palm of his hand. Kick the ball. That's the end of it. Cheon-sang was able to dodge and counter-attack his target with his chin. What a beautiful sound. It's good. When you ruin something but break to the ground, this guy piles on the fly. Shame on you for losing to a child, shouted the lad. After these words, the man gained strength. The family's own Zhu, best rated, a technique that resembled a wriggling tongue, not just enveloping the sword blade, but going beyond it. Into the release of energy. They had almost won. He had to beat him to death at the first opportunity. The boy filled his sword with energy. And he didn't give up. Master! It's a stirring of energy. That should help. The opponent only laughed. Sword energy. I don't think that's a good solution with this layout. 1. The difference in techniques is like between heaven and earth. Difference in power density. But the main difference is the length. The guy attacked, but at the same moment, Cheon-san dodged. And in an instant, Cheon-san leaped towards his opponent, but the latter in turn was able to repel his attacks and throw Cheon-san away. Jinmu was pleased with him. He tries to shorten the distance with Pan Ka-hu, making every effort to find a gap in his defense. You can't call his actions an attack as he is nowhere near his skill level. Her gaze is full of determination. Jinmu decides to join the fight. Hey, Whiskers! You pull out the sword and you think victory is in your pocket. I know you're a master of your craft, so play with me now. Pan Ka-hu was perplexed. How dare you interfere with a fight? He replied. Teacher, cried out Cheon-san, I can still fight. Everyone in the room realized that Jinmu, of the first generation warrior, mentored by the oldest Mutanga himself. Jinmu was ready to show how to tear the bastard to shreds. The master would personally show him the fighting techniques. On the fight between Jinmu and Jinho, I only heard from Cheon-woo, since I wasn't there myself. From the ruck with the Saban devils from the glade, was only a dimension that can in no way be considered. What do the teacher use against the energy arousal technique? The lad only laughed, torn to shreds, you're too cocky for a novice. Although, because you became a tier 1 pupil at such a young age, you can afford to. The boy got angry. His profanity reeked of cold. Oh, this is going to be fun, said the Jinmu. Too dangerous, it's no longer a training exercise, determining whose skills are better wallpapered to death. If this continues, there could be a conflict with the mutant. Even though the mutant is weakened, their clan is part of the Changwon faction. And others, this will lead to a war between the mutant and the 7U. Take that with a shout, and the boy lunges with his sword at the Jinmu. This is so releasing energy and not even close to the previous one. Jinmu, all fine, all done chickens. Just being strong isn't enough. It's important to be able to use your power wisely. Blow a hole in the ceiling. The chaps only got even angrier from blocking in the attack. Jinmu blocked his attacks a few more times. And he was able to do it with the rib of the ball. No such thing, and he didn't ruffle it, he just used the energy equality in the swords and stirred up the energies. Here's another way to use the energies in the sword. The Jinmu threw a few punches at the guy. And knocked him down. He greedily beat the guy. The Lord didn't come up. And tried to stop him. What are you doing? Asked Jinmu. Aren't you a martial arts scholar? If you ask about the family, you will be told that they are scholars known for their wisdom. But this is all wrong, due to the large number of enemies in Murim. The Zhu family is primarily a military clan, so its arts are far from weak in the side of the Zhu family. Really pissed off, not even mixing later. I make just for you about your arrogant behavior. Begin, said Jinmu with a smile on his face. An even more humiliating situation, and come up with a difficult one. I just have to grab you by the wrist. Jinmu began to fend off his opponent's attacks. Even when he was able to catch him by the wrist, he wrested it. The Fearful God's attack is a legacy of the Zhu family. It's based on localizing power inside the 5 fingers of the hand. but for some reason it doesn't work. This technique is useless for this fight. The divine attack of 1,000 worlds draws him about the one he has concentrated in his right hand. Receiving, said the blast. He didn't make it off the ground either. What a shame. You were laying full on, like you were going to steer my blood, but in spite of that, I withstood your attack. The name of the guy squealed. Jinmu. That's the name of the future head of the Union of United Political Forces. Well, we'll meet again. At last, said the guy. They made so much havoc and destroyed the inn that Jinmu demanded compensation for the damage. The Lord gave him a sack of silver, but no. And the guy who lost before that was left as unnecessary trash. The schedule for some time the lad coughed up blood. During the fight, Jinmu caused him an internal injury. Thank God I wasn't covered in blood in front of him. I thought it was just a wild wolf cub in front of me, but he turned out to be a real baby tiger. One that had already set its sharp claws in motion. A man like him could only come down from Mutang Mountain for one purpose. To seize the rights of trade in Takana. If they were to fall into the hands of a Mutang again, there is no doubt that the Jew family will suffer greatly. Gil Pyong. Keep an eye on that Jinmu. I want to know where he's staying, who he's meeting, absolutely everything. Mutang, haven't you already found the power to get what you want? I won't let this one come true. The test is over. Going back to the manor. All the people look strangely at the Jinmu because of his clothes. It was relatively new, but because of the constant fighting, there's hardly anything left of it. And there isn't even a spare. Because of his fateful encounter with the Mutang, he had to go to all that shame. If he hadn't shaken out the family Jew money, things would have been a lot worse by now. He would have to spend it on clothes. Master. Your visit to our shop is a big part of it. Welcome. When it comes to silk, our shop is considered the best in Takana. The tailoring and customer care is top-notch. You won't find the likes of us in all of Chonwon. Jinmu ordered 3 pairs of clothes, each one a pair. Money gives you power and makes others more loyal. If you destroy it, it's to the ground. If you spend it, it's full. This is something that a person in a high position should always understand. And one creates a good impression, then one can easily get what one wants. By the way, salesman, do you not know the man by name and finger? Yes, I do. He's done a lot of things, so I wanted to meet her. From this street, this man collects money for patronage, so maybe you know something about haggling. Ambush a mutant just before he climbs the mountain. Bad guys. A lot of people are looking for this guy, and he's a real scumbag, by the way, said the salesman. He came here several times yesterday, but no one has any idea where he's hiding. Well, when the clothes are ready, send them to the main trading guild. The residents of the Zhu of Takana family. The head of the family started asking questions about Jinmu. Guy and young, but he could be called a true baby tiger. The head got angry. Are you trying to tell me that the first-level Mutana apprentice has won? The boy began to make excuses. He was trying to find out why the mutant apprentice showed up here after 10 years. If the head of the family found out he lost, he'd be in big trouble. I followed him and found out that they were heading to the main trade guild. It seems Mutang and the main trade guild made a deal. The head only laughed, ha ha. Apparently the mutant has completely lost his mind because of his poor position. Seriously, making a deal with that guild? With these scum smuggling and who not even to name? Mutang seems to have fallen definitively there. Mutang has been seen warriors of the Yu family. Well, it seems they were watching these novices. And the apprentice who was sent to the main trade guild is called Jinmu. Now it all makes sense. With a dung-sucking, blood-sucking fly, you can eventually kill a cow. The mutant has no idea that he will be destroyed by such a small wound. The head of the family has given the boy 20 warriors from Cheonghua University to follow the actions of these novices. Cheonghua University. The strongest warriors, directly subordinate to the Jew. No one had ever used these airs before the lad. Perhaps to prevent the Mutang from sneaking into the Takana, the head has made this drastic move. The lad hopes that if he can do his father's bidding, then he can become the chief heir. This place has not yet been taken by anyone else. His brothers are also the main claimants, and he is chosen according to one criteria only. It's whoever makes the family prosperous. It all comes down to Jinmu. The guild's main gate, the guys have been practicing. Hey Cheon Woo, you can't go wrong. Or do you want to go without dinner? No, replied Cheon-san, is that all you can do? I'll try my best, teacher. They arrived at the main trade guild, but Gyok-chok-san was away on business, so Jinmu has nothing to do at all. He's left to spend his time training the kids. And they've allocated entire mansions. There's a backyard with a garden and a gazebo, which is a bit much for others. He was a bit surprised. The guild earns more than he thought. The bigger the fish the better. Glad to see it, Jinmu. Glad to see again. And the year has not come. This guy's plans have long been known to Jinmu. He wants to put Jinhee in the position of Supreme Elder and thereby subjugate the Mutang. But a man who voices his thoughts shows weakness. He will first gain his favor, and once he finds out about the guild, he will slowly siphon off everything and everyone until they go bankrupt. He finds out that Jinmu is constantly being molested and decides to introduce bodyguards to him to give him peace of mind. You can ask for whatever you want, and while you're here, on behalf of the head merchant guild, you can pay for your purchases in the glass. Jinmu was overjoyed. The chief decided to show them the Takana. It was supposed to be accompanied by a sumptuous dinner. And the boys agreed. Wait for me for a while. I'll give a few reasons and come right back. All right, Chairman. Thanked Jinmu. It looked as if they had known each other like best friends for 10 years. Such kindness always hides something of a self-serving price. The chairman ordered his subject to inform the Wu family that the novices had arrived at the guild. But isn't it too risky? Asked the subject. You can see by their clothes that this is the aftermath of the clash of the whole family, but their plan has not been successful. If they fail again, we might just give it to them. It's still not too late to back out, and they can't back out of it. The representative was surprised when he received an offer from the Wu family to eliminate Jinmu, but if Jinmu takes the place of the chief apprentice of Jinhee's place, he but seems to be at a disadvantage. If they are going to use the name in the future, it will be up to them to put Jinhee in Jinmu's place as the main apprentice. After all, it's much easier to control someone who is already tainted and has a compromat on him. Plus, this incident will be blackmailed by him because he will be a murderer to collect on the plan. Jinhee will end up in the hands of the chairman and become a puppet. The whole situation is very profitable for him, so there is no way he can get out of the game. Now he has to cooperate with the Wu family. This family is well aware that their situation is worse than that of the merchant guild, so they will quickly sort it out. The representatives asked how the smuggling was going with his subject's moustache. It will be delivered within 5 days, he replied. Smuggling gunpowder is forbidden by the administration. But it is a very lucrative business. There is too much money and, living honestly, one could not even dream of so much. Now gunpowder is more important to the chairman than any problems with the youngsters. Keeping an eye on them. Not the administration, they even Murim will not stop the chairman. Family Y, message from the main trade guild. Pancake booked seats in the Muwol on the waterfront. The guy has trained mercenaries capable of keeping their mouths shut. What can you say about these mercenaries? Asked the head of the family to Moon Hyam. This time he has prepared more experienced and well-known people. If these mercenaries screw up, then Sam Gongsachok will take over the case. He is the leader of a bandit group in Sakhok, known throughout Takana. He is the master swordsman of all bandit hangmen, skilled in snow wing techniques, has a huge following and is rumored to be connected to a huge band of Black Death from the boot. He got wind that we were looking for Pal Ryong too, so he contacted us himself. And Pal Ryong is his cousin, so he didn't stay away. Once Jinmu is killed, the head of the family will take out Gongsachok and his gang, because all the crimes can be pinned on them. Everything will be built up as if scum and Sapa without a drop of greed destroyed Mutang's apprentice. Takana, the waterfront. Nah, don't touch me. Cheon Wu, the scum, is having fun. They're going to have dinner with representatives not on this street. Hands off. Jesus. My toughness. How could I have come with you past the red light district? I'm just used to taking shortcuts here and there. There's only one place in Tarkan that serves superior rice wine, but it's pretty far away. All the decent establishments they've already passed. Pretending to be kind, he lured us to some hidden corner. He went past the red light district for a reason, he wanted our sobriety. Jinmu decided to play along. He's madly curious about what he's up to. Takana, Wickwhack Promenade. Moowall. Welcome, are you from the guild's head trade? Come inside. The guys are completely clueless. It's no use to them. I know nothing in this world. From here to the room you'll be beaten by this guy. My name is Go Volume, follow me. Dried calluses on our hands we all hang. They don't belong to the meet and greet guys, which means the guys know how to fight. The guy walked the guys through. The Jinmu poured a subtle alcoholic beverage that was different from the one the chairman had poured. But the lad noticed the difference anyway. Looks like the chairman will have to go away for a while. It's all right, Jinmu replied. A pathetic excuse for a quick getaway. It was already so unplayed, yes. A confined space. There was only one door leading out. Into alcohol, something obsessed. Still strong muscles that clothes can't hide. And those two musicians' calluses on the inside of their hands are characteristic of an artificial warrior, and the blue-tinged tips of their fingers are usually found on those who use cheap poison. They are assassins for hire. Master, drink this cup. Are you suggesting you drink the mutant's chalice? If you're that stupid, drink it yourself. They must have realized he'd spotted their plan. The girl quickly tried to extend the bowl at the guy, but he dodged it. Cheon-san already was approached from behind by the girl. He successfully fought back. The two girls attacked Jinmu. The notebook operated their attacks. Started that the sword was blind, so all levels in front of him. Jinmu was angry because of how beautifully he talks to look like a professional swordsman, and he told him that if anyone heard that, they would consider him the strongest master of Mutanga. The protagonist provocatively pointed at the sword and asked if he was only using it for looks and wouldn't use it. An argument ensued between them, one saying he couldn't use a real sword in training sparring because it violated a commandment. Jinmu was disappointed that he was so righteous and adhering to the commandments, and deciding that enough was enough, told Jungwoo about the techniques he could use in combat, and motivated him by not giving him meat if he lost, and in that moment his motivation skyrocketed, because not eating meat to him was tantamount to death. The fight began and Jong-san stood with only a stick and the fat man attacked him with his fists. He masterfully dodged the blows, confidently surrounding his opponent, not letting him hit himself, and stopping, taking a weak stick kick and shoving his opponent off with his shoulders. Jinmu conceded defeat to Jongwoo and began beating him, saying that if the sword had been real, he would have died long ago and that he couldn't even look at meat for 2 days now. The guy walked the guys through. The Jinmu poured a subtle alcoholic beverage that was different from the one the chairman had poured. But the lad noticed the difference anyway. Looks like the chairman will have to go away for a while. It's all right, Jinmu replied. A pathetic excuse for a quick getaway. It was already so unplayed, yes. A confined space. There was only one door leading out. Into alcohol, something obsessed. Still strong muscles that clothes can't hide. And those two musicians' calluses on the inside of their hands are characteristic of an artificial warrior, and the blue-tinged tips of their fingers are usually found on those who use cheap poison. They are assassins for hire. Master, drink this cup. Are you suggesting you drink the mutant's chalice? If you're that stupid, drink it yourself. They must have realized he'd spotted their plan. The girl quickly tried to extend the bowl at the guy, but he dodged it. Cheon-san already was approached from behind by the girl. He successfully fought back. The two girls attacked Jinmu. The notebook operated their attacks. I didn't switch the sheet to the two musicians. They used needles to throw their boyfriends. But they used the table to defend themselves. But you hit some needles, but nothing lethal. They decided to kill the musicians. But before they could be killed, their conductor burst into the room. Oh, really, there's a kid staying outside, isn't his name Guavol? I warn you, your death will be painful. You are an unattended personal creature. It's easy to see what abilities this guy has. His level is simple. If I fight him, it will be too humiliating. I can't do that. Listen, the boys are about to gain experience. He decided to let Cheon-woo fight. The situation looks terrible, but disappointing the teacher is much scarier. You'll win, Jinmu assured him. The boy pulled himself together and launched an offensive. If Master says I can win, I can do it. One did not concede to the other in the duel, each missing a punch. Despite his physique, he was very fast. and a thick layer of fat protects him reliably from blows. With every punch he throws, it just seems to crack. Under Jinmu's guidance, the guy's fist-fighting technique has improved tremendously, especially in terms of sharpness of attack and destructive power. If he becomes more confident, no one will disrespect him with such abilities. One of the musicians tried to reach for the needle, but Cheon-san struck back with his sword, throwing him back a few meters. But suddenly another old man came. Of the 3 stages of energy arousal, the first, Hyungi, is a state of aroused energy. Katai, a certain object is used to connect. Most masters release the condemned energy technique is in this stage. Next, Tanji. The energy is released conveniently by the bullet into that place where the set is located. Those who have reached there are outstanding masters, most of them cracks, well close to that status. I may have reached the second stage now, but in my past life I had a higher level. That's why I know. Despite the fact that he is only standing there, the exclamation point in his veins is so strong that a person who has reached the highest level can do such a thing. The old man doesn't even realize what's going on because of whom and with whom he's fighting. Evil energy? Jew family? What kind of nonsense is that old man talking? Look, I got a proposition for you. I need that boy alive, so if you give me the kid, that Rurius that didn't see you. Doesn't that make it a better deal? Suggested the old man. The old man tricked their backs with his technique, but Jin mused to repel her with an air matter technique. Isn't that how the air matter technique is used in Mutant? If you tried to counter my energy, you wouldn't survive. So I used a unique orphan of this technique. The wind in the air matter only lets the energy pass through, filtering it, but concentrated the currents of air, created a barrier of them, which caused my energy to change course. This young man will improve those herbivorous old men. Unless you have an impeccable grasp of the martial arts and experience, you will not succeed. Where did it come from already? This Shira must have been famous. Ilwon Magyu, Sapek Hong, the United Political Forces Union don't recall him anywhere. Jinmu can't figure out what kind of person he is, even though he's already dug through all his memories. Who are you, he asks. The old man can hide and transform energy as he likes. I knew it, that old man has a Kangi level. When he activates his abilities, everyone dies. Let me go Kangi level, can't you think I can handle him? By some time. Jinmu attacked. After all, he's responsible for the lives of his students. Perhaps this will be the last battle. The old man is too strong. To him, just a pathetic bug, some worthless ant. But even among them there are guys capable of hurting a man. An ant with a lot of venom. PTC blinded the old man with its released energy, and after that it conducted a stealthy strike. So he planned a double attack. He was aiming for the target. Before such a thing, he marked the village as thin as strips of energy. The old man's habit of always being the same after reflecting the attacks of a young adversary begins to read the nation. That moment itself becomes the most ideal moment for an attack. Angry old man. You block his attacks and I kill you? When the old man slammed his energy into the guy's arm, he whirled the elephant man around, reducing the force of the blow. He made it clear he was following me, so there might be a problem if there are any clues left that you can find and capture me. You can't. The best thing to do now is to cover your tracks and more. Jinmu was badly hurt. He felt as if his arm bones were shattered and his chi energy was severely depleted because of the internal injuries. The company, because he didn't think he would go to such lengths to kill him. Even though this old man had already taken off, he couldn't imagine what else the head of the trade guild might have had in store for him. They wanted to kill the bandit who had come to them again. He would have liked to escape, but there was no way he could because they did not have an escape route. Especially since he wasn't the best in shape at the time, so he could hardly do anything to them. Well, compared to this guy's power, the mob is nothing. He may not be much, but he's above Hyungi level. And if you come to this stage of releasing energy, then everyone around you will know that you come from a good family. Hyungi is considered the highest level amongst the first-tier disciples. The protagonist started to provoke the strongest of the crowd, so that they would hurry away and not disturb him. Of course he was getting high, he needed to provoke him in any way he could and to punch a hole in his defense. He started chasing him away, saying he didn't care about him or his organization. He said forgive him if he left right now or he didn't like something. Dai started distracting them by talking and saying they weren't even good enough for him. But when his opponent wasn't expecting him, he attacked and wanted to chop his head off, but only grazed his neck and scratched him a little. His opponent merged and struck him in the neck as well, but he managed to cover himself with the hilt of his sword and flew away a little. The main character would not have been injured, but it is difficult for him. Even after the first blow, he was shaking. The bandit began to attack again as he wanted to teach the insolent monk a lesson. Although he didn't expect that it would be so easy to fight him, he didn't expect that his attacks would be so strong. He was also very fast. With one last blow, the bandit knocked the protagonist back and pinned him against a tree. The guy started to think again what he should do. If this went on, he wouldn't last long. The guy with the evil energy even crossed the Zhu family. What was it about the young novice that made him only enemies? He began to look around and wonder how he was going to escape, and then he saw people from another clan. He was now nervous and did not understand where they had come from. Mutang and the Zhu family had been in constant conflict and had taken it upon themselves to profit from the region, so it was unlikely they would help each other. The bandit suggested that they had decided to make a political alliance as representatives of the Chonpa. The Juju family must have come back to take revenge because of a past event. But the main character quickly started to walk out of there and asked the Zhu clan to sort it out. Gongsachok get it, which even the Zhu family heard. This bandit has a level of hyungi and free time, and after that various fighting techniques. He is also related to the lame grouping of the Black Death Poo. And the fact that the novices are now with him, it turns out that they are up to something illegal and involves the Black Death. Takoda, downtown, hotel. Upon arriving in town, the apprentice asked the main character why they went to the town center. He just thought it would be better for him. He replied to him that they would try to find them, but that it was unlikely that they would be visited by the thought that they had escaped to the center of Takana. They would hang around in huge places or on the road leading to the Mutang. He also asked if they had taken Yosandan. The disciples answered in the affirmative and took it out. Yosandan is a pill that restores the body. It was one of the medicines they were given when they left the mutants. There were only 10 of them and they were all consumed by Jinmu. It didn't matter to him whether it was 10 or 100 grand. He must recover as quickly as possible and defeat Gongsachok. The protagonist knew exactly what those who find Sasago were thinking. They would only look for them for a day and then run away if they didn't find them. And during this time he needs to recover. Of course, a day is not enough for a full recovery, but there is always a way out. The method of crazy energy circulation. His essence is that all of his insides explode, and then begins a process of strengthening the body. He does not care which energy, negative or positive, he will receive after using all of his remaining Zai. This method is called a very serious complication. He was very serious about making sure that those who dared to encroach on his life would never see this world again. The residents of the Takana family. They had to be killed, and you managed to help this novice. How come the sign? Exclamations answer. So that's what you needed the allocated Zhonghua Wars for? Not a boy at all. Nothing has become. Such a short-sighted child is not my son. Get out of my sight. Father. Give me another chance. I'll find those bastards. I'll find them and wait until Gongsachok can deal with them now and then. Are you really hoping Gongsachok will kill them? So you're saying you want to help a bandit destroy a mutant apprentice? He said, raise your son in peace and let him take one step beyond them or they will break his legs. The elder lord of the Zhu family and Zhu Kalgak tumblers. Oh, I see, father counted you out again. Maybe it's because you're stupid? Greetings, big brother. Keep the soulless greetings to yourself, brother. Didn't plan to pull a fish out of a pond with no effort. Well, despicable people always try to take the easy way out. Will you leave your family and become a daoist? Don't worry, I'll gladly accept it when I find out you're a Mutanga apprentice. X when they want to kill each other. Let's see how long you can keep building yourself up as an important persona. Someday I'll sweep you away and become the first heir. Night Bazaar, Takana, Wigwan Nook Gongsachok Manor. The bandits were very angry because no one could find the 3 battered boys no matter how hard they tried. Everyone followed this order. Pickpockets, bandits and others. They were used to finding everyone, but got nowhere. The chief pontiff was very angry because the main character very cleverly deceived him, and he wanted to find these children as soon as possible because if they inform the elder that someone tried to kill them, the monks and with Mutanga crowd will come here. They will not be indifferent to this situation. Therefore, there will be questions, but pursue those who have attempted to tin the novice to punish for the crime. If you become a target, there is nothing you can do about it. Even if the main gangsters are connected to the Black Death, you don't think they can help you in such a situation. They'd rather not have a mutant than confront him. Unless he finds and kills these novices. Go to the Wu family at once. Tell them the novices have been written off and ask them to help find them. Services asked if the Wu family would help them. The main thing the bandits replied was that they had no choice. If we were to get hurt, then they would be at risk too. At this point our trinity burst in. In a pathos they scattered the warriors who were standing by the door and walked towards the main one. Everyone was surprised that they weren't hiding but coming towards them. The main character wanted to have fun with the ringleader of the bandits. The bandits all had very scary expressions on their faces. They weren't waiting for Trinity to come back to get revenge. All at once in the square the ringleader gave them one command to kill them. Jinmu never fully recovered. Only his upper body Kai has recovered. But now he's using the crazy energy circulation method, so there's more power than usual. This one I'll go with you souls. Everything killed all the warriors who attacked him, even the head himself fell on his butt and did not understand what was going on, how he got such power. He thought that the protagonist was much more powerful than him. Seeing this he wanted to run away to join his powers with his family afterwards. Why? But he started coughing up blood. He could not believe that such a monster had been ordered to kill him. If he was a stage master there, he could not be defeated even by a direct attack and could not escape. But he came up with the idea of using the King Eagle against him. It's a killing weapon in the form of a tube, which is filled inside, with books on top. If the wick is twitched, the same goes flying by the hundreds and if he approached, it would be impossible to dodge this attack at this distance. You just have to get his attention. Immediately the bandit began pleading that he had made a mistake and money had clouded his mind and his sin could only be bought by death. Jinmu started to approach the bandit and when he got close enough he shot him with a roll of needles. But the protagonist anticipated this and stepped to his side in time, after which he knocked the bamboo barrel out of the bandit's hand, and took him by the head. And afterwards he beat him so much with his fists. After a while they rinsed the bandit with water and started questioning him. The guy asked the man who made the deal, Chok-san. The robber threw that no, as he could not speak after such a beating. That's when the family is. Family I don't know about, but by the looks of it, they're pretty good warriors. So why are you so eager to kill me if we're not really acquainted with each other? Said the protagonist. He'd really like to dump now, but he can't. The effect of the crazy energy circulation is wearing off. First the guy wants to smash the main trade guild. One of the students was very worried about the teacher as his body hasn't fully recovered, yet and the guild has many warriors. If they attack now then. He interrupted the student and asked who said that we would attack the guild like this. It will be our Gongsa-chok. And looked at him saying he needed to have a face-to-face chat with him. The late hour in such a guild had become a ruckus. It was very loud outside. To the room leader came to warn that they were being attacked by Sachok's warriors. All the bandits who had started to infiltrate only shouted that they would punish the villains of the main trade guild. The bandits quickly took out all the warriors of the main trade guild and tied everyone up. The main character began to wonder where the bastard called Chok-san was. He also asked why there were so few warriors. Has the guild shrunk so much in a day? In response, the leader began to taunt Jinmu and got kicked in the leg. The head of the bandits started beating him up. Although he couldn't speak properly yet, he shouted how dare he defy his master. Gongsa-chok is really serious. He is going to prove his loyalty to the monk by killing the head of the trade guild. While he was being beaten, he didn't realize what had happened to this scoundrel who was going to kill the novice. Now he has changed so much in just one day. At dawn, the main character told the head of the bandits that if he helped him, he would not send a message to the Mutang and he could go on living the bandit life in peace from behind the curtains. He gave him hope because he already thought that he would be the one to be haunted by Mutang forever, but he still doesn't understand how he has to pay for such kindness. Jinmu stopped the bandit head and once again asked the head of the trading guild where Chok-san is. To reinforce, he said he could easily kill him as he could also ask someone else and he didn't care who it would be. He called and said that he is now smuggling as this is a dangerous business. He forgot with all his warriors, so the guild has few guards left. He immediately imagined what would happen if he rushed and raided the place where the deal was made. Then the money and the contraband would be all he could get his hands on. The main character immediately asked why he had gone there in person and not sent one of his subordinates and what the deal would be. The chief confessed that everyone was surprised by what they had just heard. People during the New Year's Eve or the Spring Festival. When it gets dark and uses it for fireworks, but for the royal palace, it's the main charge. That is military material. Even in small quantities if the administration doesn't know it. And besides, if you're a traitor to Murim, you're strictly forbidden to touch gunpowder. The decree of the administration is about the relationship between the Murim and the administration. Murim does not participate in the affairs of the administration and the administration does not get involved with Murim. This decree was issued to the Murim by the first king of the present dynasty, and it has already become a tradition for subsequent generations. Murim must follow certain rules so as not to break tradition. It is forbidden to harm the common folk. It is forbidden to join a conspiracy, and it is strictly forbidden to touch gunpowder as it is in the jurisdiction of the administration. If these rules are broken, Murim could be destroyed by millions of soldiers. The main characters by the ceiling. Where is it located? It is located on a reed field near the North Reservoir. Also, he will divide up Cheon-san to run to the administration and the tokens and report gunpowder smuggling faster. And he will go to the reservoir. The apprentice tried to stop his teacher because he was badly wounded after all the battles, but he told him to trust him. He will go forward and try to delay these hunts. Cheon-san hurriedly transferred the soldiers from the administration. The protagonist wanted to be there before the administration because he wanted to get a small sum of money from just the bandit deal. Northern Reservoir of Token. Cane Field. The chairman stopped a group of bandits who were smuggling gunpowder. They did not stand on the bank of the river and waited for the buyers. Bad is the chairman's life's work. He collected as much as 5 cases of gunpowder. It took him 3 months to get that much. He had to give up all other purchases. Besides, in such conditions it is 4 times more expensive than usual. I don't care because his whole business pays off. Even if he overpaid for it at 11 times the price, the profits will be used to buy the shops in the center of Takana. He wanted to stop smuggling and finally establish a real guild. They pointed to the river and told him that the buyers were sending a secret signal that they were there. He told everyone to be on the lookout to react quickly at the right moment. A swap of 5 kilograms of gold and the chairman agreed to the deal. But at this point they were stopped by the protagonist. The chairman was very surprised that he still survived and the main bandit joined him. He called the chief bandit a local traitor and said it would be better for them to pretend they didn't see anything. He sent all 20 warriors to destroy the main character and his 2 subordinates. That all the bandits would come out of the high field and start fighting too. The bandits' plans began to kill all the warriors the chairman took with him to the bargain. Jinmu Bling in a large outnumbered force so won the fight without any problems. They have so pushed back all the elite warriors that if things continue like this all the plans that are chairman so far will fall like a sure house. Of course the relationship with Mutang will be broken, yes, and the most important trade guild will cease to exist. At this point, by the way, he decided to take all the money with him and run away. But at this point, the buyers called off the deal and told the chairman to get lost. He suggested that they join forces and kill the scoundrels, but they refused. They said that they would not risk their lives if they were unsure of what was happening, so they told him to go away. At that moment he was talking to the chairman and he thought that he was rescuing him. In his mind he was thinking that he seemed to be saving him and maybe he was more generous than he seemed at first sight. But at the same moment he hit the chairman too, and also told those who wanted to buy gunpowder to fuck off too. Jinmu nicely told to piss off the Kuns and say thank you for not touching them. But if they wanted to fight him anyway then no one minded. Just as the merchant wanted to attack the protagonist the military administration arrived. She made 1 volley of arrows and said to arrest everyone who was there. The guy was very cheerful when the administration came too fast and he was not expecting this, so he gave the chest of gold to Cheon Yu, and told to run away from there quickly so the administration would not see me. Confiscate the gold. Those who wanted to buy gunpowder in fear started to board the boat and sail away. He also noticed that the chairman wanted to run away from him, but he stopped him and told him that he would be responsible for smuggling and for wanting to kill him, after which the protagonist started beating him up. One of the administration warriors along with his apprentice Cheon-san thanked Jinmu for his work, although the warrior did so reflexively as he was very surprised at how brutally he beat up the chairman. The other administration warrior reported that they tightened all the cats and the bandit Gansachoka. The bandit chief hoped that the protagonist said it wasn't his fault. After all, they had agreed if he would help him tell on the life of the disciples. But Jinmu asked for a reward for the bandits. Since the administration has not yet had time to prepare and take the money to pay the bounty, he received a plaque confirming that he should receive it. The warriors of the administration for using his oni to catch the smugglers and the bandit. He also asked if there was any reward for the smugglers, and he was told that when they were in the head office of the administration I was with the chiefs. But the warrior said that most likely he will be allocated a reward. He also learned in the main office that all of his trade guild will be seized, and he really regretted that he didn't take something from the guild when he was attacked. That's how it ended up being a criminal, and the bad guys were arrested and all that was left. At this point Jinmu along with my apprentice flew into the bank where he asked to find some green tea. The banker was very surprised and said do they know what this place is, and explained that it is a bank where people entrust their savings. So he asked Chongwu to take out the chest and show him the gold. As soon as the bank saw him how much gold they had, he immediately bowed down and didn't realize how much money he could make in a year at the bank. That day, the Takana branch opened for the first time one morning and we became the first monks to use the bank in the history of Mutanga. Jinmu also opened accounts at the bank for his disciples, which will silence them. The head of the family found out that such an association had been caught smuggling and all its assets had been confiscated. He asked what had happened there because 2 days before the main characters and his company were to be trapped. And the opportunity told him that unfortunately he did not know the details and could not say anything. The head of the clan feared that if those bastards were to reveal their family's involvement, everyone would know that Jinhee had made an attempt on his comrade's life. If that happened he would surely be banished, he would be made a cripple and his tendons would be cut. iOS in no way wanted that to happen, so he urgently wanted a meeting with the head of the prefecture. The assistant asked him to contact Jinhee and tell him to sit in on the changes in the Mutang. He said that everything that links them to Gansachok and helium should be destroyed. He thought it would be possible to say that Jinhee knew nothing, as if their family had planned it in secret from him. In that case, he should kill them before they tell me anything. Takana, head office of the prefecture. They've already checked everyone who was captured last night, including Yi Pal Ren. The protagonist was given a reward of 200 coins for catching them. He thought that there are good people among the administration staff. He was also told that the smugglers would have to meet the head of the company to be rewarded. He had already turned them in, so they were sent to him. Before the main character's team came here to buy new clothes, the lacquer master showered them with compliments. So now the moment has come at last for him to be rewarded for his righteous life, albeit not for such a long time. Mr. Yu, who had ordered a Gansachoku on the protagonist, the culprit of the whole affair, arrived. The head of the Wu family pretended not to notice Jinmu and his friends. He was told that it was he and his friends as Mutang novices who had helped arrest the madmen of the main trading guild, when those were trying to sell smuggled gunpowder. Local traders praise Mutanga because his novices helped arrest the gang of outlaws. The head of the family was asked if his son Mutanga was also studying. He quickly switched topics and said that he was completely out of touch and was too busy talking to him, and that he had to meet his supervisor on a very urgent matter, so next time. Jinhe, right? Is that what you said his name was now? And now he has to take the place of Sasha the apprentice. The main character politely apologized for being rude since his Jinhe's older brother's father, and asked for permission to introduce himself. And he asked me if I was going to be his supervisor, and if so, he would like me to join him, because I was also going to be his supervisor. He was surprised because he thought the genie had already figured him out, but he thought he didn't know anything. Already in the executive's office. Greetings, supervisors. Good work, Master Jinmu. Looking at everything you've done, I can confidently say that Mutang is second to none, said the leader to the protagonist. And the leader also added that Gongsachok said that he got the order to kill novice Jinmu here is the head of Wu family. Said that he heard that too, but is sure it's a big lie. After all, his comrade is a member of the Wu family, it can't be. After all, scoundrels are willing to use any, most absorbing means to save their own skin. Also, he wants to express his gratitude to Drown, because it is illegal to sell bad things in large quantities. Fig Tuewu, as a token of his gratitude, offers the protagonist some fun in the main office. But he refuses and says he shouldn't, because he only helped for the sake of general well-being, and doesn't want to inconvenience the administration. Dai unexpectedly meets his comrade's father by the way. He hopes there won't be all sides, but he would like to stay with Mr. Wu. Jinmu was preparing a plan to take revenge on the Wu family. He wanted to squeeze all the juice out of them. That expression. That's the face of someone who has known everything for a long time. 8 was sure that he would follow some definite goals, and now he didn't know what to do. Just then the main character rushed in and wanted to say something very important. So he asked for an order for the guards to disperse. Jinmu was asked to sit down and answered. The head said he didn't expect to see him here so soon himself. But he wanted to pretend to be a fool first and that he would not have any SMS evidence. He thought that if he insisted on not being a bandit to help the spirits, he would only have to do so by any means. But the protagonist said he had a Gansachoka settlement book, and if it is suddenly seen by the administration or Mutang, it will become known that the head of the family O was the one who ordered the murder of the protagonist and his disciples. What do you think would happen then? He asked. And the fact that he knew everything about it perfectly well cannot be forgotten. Asked him what he wanted. The boy replied that he wanted to replace the chief apprentice with a mutant. He asked him to promise that he would help him to achieve this goal. Till put everything in place for he to take over as Supreme Elder. That I will have to help you, said the head. But the boy interrupted him. Whoa, hear me out and then decide. Do you really think you won't get anything for helping me? If you help me, in return I promise to give the place to Plekhanov the Elder. I have had enough, and I have become very apprenticed and do not need anything. I wanted firstly to master the technique, and secondly to get a submissive Supreme Elder. The chief apprentice's place is the starting point, to master the dual energies. But he finds it too tedious to hold the position of Supreme Elder all the time. It's much more profitable to put a subscriber there, who has dirt on him, and use him as a puppet, controlling him from the pull. The head was surprised that he only wanted to take the place of the chief apprentice and leave the chief elder to Jinhe. He did not understand why instead of choosing the head apprentice he would not choose the position of Supreme Elder. He said he was not yet stupid enough to believe such a trivial lie. Jinhe responded in such an incomprehensible way that I wouldn't want you. You didn't get the meaning of my words. I don't need the family's help. Why? I don't want to cause you unnecessary trouble. You have no choice. If you refuse, I'll have your family in a trash can right now. Shouting that he's just a pathetic braggart. At that moment, the guy's murderous energy became so strong that it sent shivers through the head. Although he is at Hyungi level and has activated his whole body's energy, it is hard to withstand the external pressure. Could it be that this guy at the level of a tanker was spinning in her head? The main thing she asked him was what do you think stopped Gong Sachoku from killing him and forcing him to go to the main trade guild? It's not that he didn't kill him, it's that he didn't succeed. It's true what they say, until you test yourself, you don't know who the hell this punk is. It's an indifferent look that burns. About his past, about the many wars he has been through and the countless murders he has suffered. So why is he such a young novice? The protagonist said goodbye and said he was waiting for her. Jinmu is a first-generation Mutanga apprentice. This guy is not a novice. And not an anti-head. The next one. It took so long to get down, and the journey back flew by unnoticed. They had already met at the palace and he was again admiring this nasty Taoist life. He was thanked and told that it was a good job. He showed everyone the true spirit of the Mutang, and the main character had no idea what he was talking about. A first-generation disciple, Jinmu, welcomes you, Supreme Elder, and all who are gathered here, said the Chief Elder. The Chief Elder praised him. He also told them that the head of the Takana head office had notified them of the guy's activity. They said that they didn't know the true essence and the main such guild would have made a big mistake if not for him. But even better was the fact that they eliminated the bandits from the back alleys who were disturbing the locals, thus causing attention to the mutant. Jinhu looked at Jinmu with great difficulty, which caused an angry reaction as the head of the family should have warned him by now that he would have to help, but he still pissed him off. He so wanted to tear his eyes out right on the spot. Now they can't use the money taken from the guild, what to do? The best solution was to send them to the administration. And what's even scarier is hearing that Jinmu got the reward. The main character's teacher said that he was sorry that it didn't work out with the food, but Jinmu stood up to the bandit in the water of his clan. very angry because he didn't want to give his money to the clan. But he had no choice and agreed. So he started to move out to prepare food for his mentor. Not far from the Cheongho storehouse there is a Samgan shrine. It is very quiet and no one comes here. The protagonist has made this cave, which is 2m×2m, a private room for meditation. He is on his 20th year and must become stronger. To become a master apprentice, to appropriate the political union, and it's the mysterious old man. A powerful master, whom I had not known until now. Thoughts of him kept running through the boy's mind. The technique the old man used. Using gravity to gather energy and, by increasing the pressure, make it explode. That was the first time he had seen a technique that completely ignored the fundamentals of martial arts. Those amazing moves. By training he wanted to repeat this technique, but he could not do it. He can replicate the old man's technique, but it's a little different. In the past when he was a Hyukran Mungan, he was able to become an absolute ruler using the martial art of Sapy, but he cannot use the same skills. Of course there are many reasons for that, but most importantly he lacks chi energy. And the top art of Chanpa enlightenment. When one crosses the wall of enlightenment known as the wall of weeping, the amount of energy one has managed to accumulate increases dramatically to support enlightenment. So if you have not succeeded in luminosity, the amount of energy you can store is insignificant, even with diligence in training. This is the peculiarity of Zhong Pa's martial arts. He's already reached the level of Kang in the past, so he can't face the wall of light anymore. In fact, one can use the martial art of Mutang perfectly without problems. But there is a limit to the strength of these martial arts due to the lack of energy. The dual energy technique is the only way out of this situation. Until then, the boy went ahead in time to prepare food for his master. He knew he had to use all the time he had been training to accumulate Kai energy and restore the lack of it. It was the best thing he could do at the moment. As they approached the palace, the protagonist overheard his students talking about wanting to withdraw money from their account to pass on. They would have been very happy to do so, but the boy stopped them, saying that he had no money. Suddenly their mentor came out and asked what Jinmu was doing with Cheon-yu. Cheon-san explained that he just wanted to teach him something new. The mentor offered everyone lunch and caught 3 pheasants himself. The protagonist began to worry about him because he was still sick and had difficulty moving, but for his mentor's sake he caught the food. Jinho said that something incomprehensible was now happening on the mountain and suggested that the boy should go there and see for himself. Then they went to Jiso's training palace, where a lot of people had gathered, and the boy didn't understand what was going on there. He hoped that someone could explain to him what was going on. He soon found out that with the money raised from their gang, they would be able to sew clothes for everyone and make a sword. People passing by the shops found out about Mutanga's plight and collected money to help them. A total of 500 coins were collected. But that wasn't all. Several geneticists had contacted them, expressing a desire to restore their relationship with Mutang. To resolve the situation, the first-generation students, led by Jin-kun, descended into the Takana. All of this was possible thanks to Jinmu. Thus there was a triumphant homecoming. Jinmu had indeed worked hard and the hero's joy was boundless. He was happy and proud of his achievement. Jinmu concentrated on the accumulation of Kai energy. Cheon-woo almost achieved perfection in fist-fighting techniques. Cheon-san mastered the release of energy. In the future, he will be a reliable assailant for the mutant. All thanks to Jinmu's skill. It was only at his mentor's wish that Cheon-woo and Cheon-sang were under his wing, and when the mentor looked in, he would just give them a couple of remarks. So this kid has achieved everything through his own meticulous training. It is possible that he is more talented than Jinmu. The elders of the monks wished to visit. The Supreme heartedly came to talk to the preceptor, and Jinmu. Had they sniffed out the gold that was in the bank? What is there to talk about that would bring everyone together for that? At the meeting of the elders, they decided to rebuild the ruined palace of Oryong. What is it about Oryong for a mentor that almost makes him cry? Jinmu, you probably don't know, so I'll explain it now, said the elder. The main palace of the Jizu, Yongyang, is responsible for the observance of the commandments, the external cooperation of Wujin, the production of medicine of Chongdong, the accounting of the Oko, the internal arrangement of the Wonghua. Anna Ryan. Mutanga's guardian angel, who was in charge of protection. Since before you became Dodong, that time of the big war, Hyung Ojo was the head of Oryong Palace, and Myung Jin was his apprentice. The Oryong Palace had a long history, but it was burned down by that filthy Hyukra Nugan. When this degenerate mutant invaded, Myongjin and the other disciples stood up to defend the Jiso creator. At this point, the loss of Li was too great, so they decided it would be more fitting to defend the mutant altogether, rather than call the burden on one particular palace. Re-establishing the Palace Orion would retain that name, effectively using the palace's role as Namam. Mentor has been offered the position of head of the palace. Of course their financial situation doesn't allow them to begin rebuilding the palace right away, but Myung-sun will try to cut costs, and with the money he saves it could be done within the next few years as soon as possible. Jinmu now has more work to do. Jinmu was glad the elders didn't come for his money. It wasn't the greaser who wanted to go somewhere with the boys. They came to the same palace. From generation to generation it had acted as a mutant's keeper. If the palace was a mutant's shield, that Numang. Mutanga sword. The palace of the Namam. Mutanga's strongest warriors were gathered there. It played an important role in conflict resolution, but also in the numerical battles associated with Mutang. Only these disciples in the entire Mutang were allowed to kill. Jin mused to become the face and pride of Mutang. Well, he didn't want to do such nonsense. These thieves came to exploit them for free. We need to get the supreme counter to change his mind. Maybe we should put on a mask and then chase after. By the way, Master, if you recognize the palace, then our teacher will have the right to become the head disciple. In general, any responsible disciple with a lot of merit can become a head disciple. According to tradition, the head disciple becomes a person from Namam. If you want to become a principal apprentice, your martial arts skills are not enough. In each courtyard there is a person in charge, who has to fulfill his obligations perfectly and by merit, and he also has to have a good reputation among all the brothers. And if he gets recognition from all the elders, he will not be the decision maker. He received a letter. It told him that Jinmu was still a Tanji. He had made a secret agreement with him that if he helped him become a top apprentice, he would make you a supreme elder. Don't be like that and unite with the Jinmu. Someone who was just a year ago already owns it. That's impossible. He's using some meat-eating wheelbarrow trick and talking like a street hustler, and he'll make me into a top counter. Don't be ridiculous. Don't whine, spit on the secrecy of the agreement. If I kill this scum, everything will stand on its own chest. And nothing will stand in my way. On the shoulders of the 5 first-generation apprentices laid the obligation to ensure the mutiny works smoothly. If you add those who have gone wandering, the whole of theirs is 7. A few years. It will take a few years to rebuild the palace. And if someone else is not the main disciple during that time, it is necessary to rebuild the palace as soon as possible, and then, as the person in charge of practical duties in the palace, buy into the achievements to be able to become a chief apprentice. The elders stammered about Varia Gladkov, which will go towards rebuilding, but even the fools understand that it will take decades just to raise the money. Jinmu should sort it out, and pour in how. And that gold left in the bank office can't be used either, even if the fate of the world depended on it. If a mutant is his hard-earned blood and sweat money, there's no guarantee that he'll be the one to take the chief apprentice's place. All he has to do is go down to the Takana for a while. Mentor allowed his apprentice to go into the Takana as he thought he wanted to down a few shots and have a good time. He may not have the task yet, but in his words he has become the lord of the creator and Jin is responsible for the practical obligations, so now only his master's permission will suffice. You may go, said the master. Of all the things he needs only the sword. Sir, come this way. This is his house, belonging to the Sohak organization. It was discovered that it was left unattended after the whole gang was decapitated. So was their money supply. The amazing fact is that no one came to confiscate such a huge amount. The various belongings, houses and land deeds that had been pawned through, and the mountain house had more than one knock on the silver coins. The servant has also found the secret monies of the Chief Merchants Guild, equivalent to one small chest of silver. And also the night jewel of Yemiju, a rare and expensive item, hard to see even in the Imperial Palace. In the future, when Jinhee becomes Supreme Elder, it will come in handy in the fund to raise the clan. When you bring all the money to your family, you will drink with your subordinates. I'll be there. Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Because of someone else's misfortune, he's got a lot of money in his hands at the most opportune moment. In any case, the fall of Chok's gang has brought only positive repercussions. Lately he feels he is starting to slip downhill because of the scoundrel Jinmu. By the way, he has to fulfill his promise that he made Jinhee. But how is he going to pull this off? The head of the family opened the door, but behind it was Jinmu. No, see. Seems like you've been living and not living all this time. You have such a pretty face. You must be quite the tactician, huh? But you've been lucky. By the way, I have a favor to ask of you. I hope it won't be too much of a burden on you, the guy said with a smirk. The boy asked for money to reinstate the creator as a mutant. A wordless sum he didn't ask for, which deduced a full recovery as quite a bit of bullshit. The head of the family took umbrage. But Jinmu replied that he was not some backwoodsman for the sake of a few coins. He would not want to come here. You're not investing money for my sake for your son. Do you have any idea what it means for a mutant to rebuild a palace with its history and tradition? Just imagine how everyone will feel about having Jinhee's family cover the entire cost. The family name Y will be engraved on the outside of the building, on the side too, and maybe even on the inside in words. Your family name will probably be on the eye of the leg for generations to come. Can you only imagine what a positive effect such an act will have? Just imagine how the elders will look at Jinhee. That's how many times I've told you to try to make it bigger than it is now. However, in all the time, it had never happened that a supreme elder had become a disciple, they who had previously held the position of chief doctrine. If so, then maybe we should write down the agreement on paper and sign it is what is needed. Figured out I found myself in this position then worth 6 deals. Jinmu haul some gold tegel. Yeah, take as much as you want. Just put your stinking signature on the road. Oh, by the way. When you donate, it'd be nice if you were married to me, because to be I should have a good reputation, too. Do you understand me? I helped you the name, when near them problems and with its owners in fact, then I family Nepal thanks to me. I hope it is not difficult for you. The head of the family was only too busy writing the agreement, but the boy had already run away. It's been a month since construction started on the family's donation. The foundations were being laid at full speed exactly where the palace would be erected again. Mentor must see with his own eyes how the pillars of the palace will rise again from the ground, and he does not want to go back down to his home. Mentor handed a letter to the boy. It was a list of martial arts books. The old man forgot some more books and rushed to fetch them. It's nice to see that the mentor is so uplifting. I wonder if it's because of the memories, or if it's all about his own mood. It's hard to tell right now. Jinmu came in the head of the Myeongyen Palace to get all the books that were on the list. The head of the palace asked Jinhee to go book by book with the guy. You could tell by the look on his face that he was still hostile. Well, in principle what else could one expect from a scoundrel, then kill his brother according to plan to replace Lam's apprentice. It would have been a lot easier if it had come to him. At least he's trying to be nice to him for now. The vault there is a ravine, so we'll have to find it here, too. And as the way goes along the breast path, it is necessary to keep watch over it. Blessed is the place, the idea that there is not a single guard. So, if someone dies here, no one will probably know about it. This killer energy suggests that it's about to get hot in here. The lad has only seen 2 people who use tagki. An older brother from Jin Jinkuan's palace, and an older Jin Myung brother who is now wandering around. He's seen their powers so he knows everything. A brat like you just isn't capable of achieving the same skill. Oh, and that story about your victory on Jinhee is also opinionated. If you even manage to fool my father, there's only one conclusion. You must be using magic to fool the people of music. And after that, aren't you ashamed to call yourself a novice? Jinmu only laughed. After making so much sense of everything that has happened, what you just gave out is the only thing that has gone through your mind, seriously. Asked the boy. Jinmu warned the boy that if he tried to throw him off the cliff, then he'll obviously fly himself. He was thrown by the touch. The boy decided that Jinmu would use dark magic to intimidate him. In his mind the Mutangu would stew without him if he died. So he lunged at Jin Nu. Energizing things is the use of energy invested in the sword. But it is also possible to use this technique without a weapon. If you put it in your fist, the technique is called energy in your fist. Jinmu dodged every one and parried every punch from the guy. The guy used Muyong Shin Neizu. It's a fighting technique whose key aspect is speed. The attacker's movements are so fast that not even a shadow has time to fall. He won't be able to constantly dodge on the narrow bridge, which in places sagged, the lad thought. I'll just grab him and throw him off the abyss. Jin mused again to dodge, and only crumpled at his speed. Jinmu lunged at the guy and delivered precise and swift blows to certain points on his chest. Because of the blockage of his bloodstream, he was now unable to move properly. Grabbing his head, he presented him over an abyss. Such a bum should have bowed at my feet for my decision to make you a riding elder. Now you're just unnecessary trash. Well, it's got to end the way you wanted it to end. A very cheesy ending for a guy claiming to be supreme elder, isn't it? Asked Jin. Have mercy on me. I'll be loyal to you. All right, give me another chance. Ask whatever you want. I'll do anything in my power. You will never be disappointed in me again. I'll give up my apprenticeship, and here's the place of the Supreme Elder. Have a good seat. Threw the lad onto the bridge. Jinmu unblocked the bloodstreams. Now he can move. He warned him if he pulls any more stunts he'll kill not only him but his dad, so he better watch what he's doing. How unfortunate that he became part of the Mutang at the age of 15. After admitting complications, he was given a name by the temple. At 25 he became a first-generation disciple of the Moan Gong mentor, and is now his 30s. He realized Henji and became one of Mutang's best disciples who had a bright future waiting for him. And he lost a man who died on just a year ago. Now he will have to obey him. The warehouse is a mutant. It'll take at least a month to copy the books. And the old man said that Jin had a laugh as from Sapa, and pierced him with a look. The lad was afraid he would be exposed. The old man sensed that his body was clearly Mutang energy. But leaning towards his age, he began to copy the books. The UN hieroglyphs are not now used in the mutant generations. If he is called the oldest means he is not an apprentice given a temple name. But there is definitely something about this old man. The reconstruction of the palace has begun, and there is a big change in life, like a responsibility for him. That attending the meetings of the first-generation disciples, one had to show up at the palace every day with a bow. A reply came from Jinkuan's elder brother, who sent him to Takana. Here comes the Takana Way, the guild's main transport point, safer during patrol ships traffic, but otherwise an area of lawlessness by brigands. So the guild determines the order of use each year and it leaves the price. This is what is called the right to use the canal. It's a life-threatening problem, so the guild puts everything on it, just to protect that right. Strangely, robbers take away guild goods, sometimes even kill people, so to make an alliance with a Monpa it would be natural to deal with this problem, but normally such a problem should be solved by guilds instead of after a general meeting. Instead, where there has been a conflict with the guilds, we have kept in touch with Isen Guild. Share your thoughts on the issue. Asked in Jin he. No one will negotiate. Because the Jew family is behind them. In fact, if they get less donations than the Jew family, the small companies will have no choice but to come to us. Because of that, over time, the family felt that their influence was shaken, so a powerful giant, the Isen Guild, took the initiative. Which leads to the bankrupt company Illinois He. The main point is to show what consequences await you if you turn your back on the Jew. This guild conflict is just the tip of the iceberg, although a pretty effective way to avoid putting the Monpa in the forefront. If this goes on, this Illinois He guild is one of two things: either it will be destroyed by the pirates or it won't be able to handle the competition. If that happens, the guild will be turned away again and rejoin the Jew family. That leaves only one option. Mutant will accompany the guild according to its schedule and then defeat the pirates overwhelmingly. The senior level must never mix, the apprentices must go, but this is the time when more people cannot be allowed to go. If the plan succeeds, it will be a great opportunity to show the great mutant power, his fearlessness against some wretched brigands, and there the hearts of the guild turn to us. There is only one person who can be trusted with such an important task. He is the sword of the mutant, and the one in charge of the palace is Jinmu. Jinmu was indignant. Why did they send only one person and take the second generation with them? Jinmu did not want to get into a situation like this and also made second generation disciples, so they are useless. Such a learner that they made a mother duck of the kids. We were so hopeful, and sour cream doors again. And he doesn't give a damn about our guild. The head of the guild. Guild head, could you leave us alone for a while? Yes, of course. The younger brother of the Jinmu. I'm here as in charge of Jin's palace, in charge of Mutana's external cooperation and trading points when it comes to asking for help from the Takana guild. Only a first-generation apprentice who is best known in other circles can give it. The pirates are a big gang of tokens who proudly display their name in the Sapacon. They are all seasoned warriors who have been through tiki battles and experienced every kind of hardship. They take on all those brigands and gangs from behind the kook you've seen before. Even with my support they are unlikely to be dealt with, and you have the nerve to call yourself a sword to satisfy your pride? Mutanga sword. Pride of Mutanga, as a right-wing Nurim clan, and all monks who have kept the foundations of Taoism alive for 1,000 years, so the name carries special weight for us. People used to say that in the past, Sapacon was forced to stop its external activities because of the attack. Because the Mutanga sword was broken. Much more important and difficult than the comforts of a bland man like you. You must take responsibility for what you dare to say in front of an outsider. I'm sure that's why I won't help you. But if you fail this mission, your life, the life of Master Myung-jin and even the restoration of the palace will not be safe. That's why all those who call themselves mutant swordsmen must follow the rules. Everything will go smoothly, then how will you act as an elder brother? Jinmu asked. You let my words slip past your lips and dare to threaten the life of my mentor. Do you have the guts to kneel before me, with bowed and tearful head, or sit down? Isn't that hard to do? Jin Kung is furious. How dare you compare a matter on which the fate of a mutant depends with your life and dignity? Looks like I'll have to teach you some sense after all. Throwing his fists. Mutanga punch. Foolishly reckless. Terribly illiterate attack. It feels like my opponent is a wild pig. I think that's enough. Water Typhoon repelled the blow. The guy was carrying the punch as if it was to my head, but in fact it hit my arm moments before Jinkuan's brother kicked it. Jinmu's teacher blocked it with his elbow. The strongest bone in the body is considered the elbow. No matter how much training you do, your toes can't withstand a collision with your elbow. I've made sure of your abilities. So I'll show you what they call a real fight. Can't pass up such an opportunity to learn a little brother's skills. The feeling is familiar. Oh yes, when I came to him there for my old body. He reminded me of my mentor attacking me defending the Jisoo Palace. The face of a true warrior. Perhaps I couldn't even like the older brother. They started the fight. The older brother woke up in the hospital. God, what a denunciation. We came to our senses. You've been hit so hard, we were already scared. We thought your soul had gone to heaven. Teacher Jinmu came out with a group of merchants at dawn. If this guy. He's single-handedly removing the pirates. Rebirth of the broken Mutanga sword, as if by order. For real. All right, boys. Let's go. Yes to the teacher. Ha, at any moment the pirates could show up. How can you be so well endowed? The leader of some mutt asked the guild master. Jin said he'd escort us, but he never showed up. And I'll be leaving with you, don't worry. He said, and to me he said everything by a monk who always sticks to formality. So the mistake is a huge mistake. We are approaching the west of the gorge. We have left the area under the photoguard of the Takana administration. Any moment now. The bandits living in themselves were not, and water said their leader, Ruthless, was tearing the back of every enemy. Places Ruthless also emanates from his anger. If Jinmu catches and defeats the guys who operate under the Sapa food, rather than mere bandits from behind the Ulk, his reputation in Mutanga grows considerably. He is sure to conquer the pirates. With that at work, another achievement that will bring him closer to his apprentice position. This is the first battle where Cheon-san will be able to use an energy reproduction technique, which he has mastered under his teacher's guidance. Pirates and brigands are nothing but useless trash who have ruined his family and the rest of the villagers. Thanks to a kind mentor, he has managed to get his hands on the martial arts, which he still strives to master. Is a month. How long he has waited for this to happen so that the families and villagers who died a violent death would no longer roam the netherworld. No peace, he will destroy everyone. This is where the western gorge begins. The path ahead is hidden behind a rock, so it's easy to hide ships here. As is usually the case. Pirates appear unexpectedly during a carefree voyage, so now we must be about that. The pirate shouted. 3 pirate ships appeared before him. How dare you cross this ravine without obtaining my, not the water's, permission? You are too foolish. The pirates dropped the hook on the ship. Instead of just standing there, do something already. Please. Just as I thought, you shouldn't have made the Sour Cream Alliance. There's nothing else to do but defend your guild yourself. The head of the guild fell to his knees. He was ready to give his gold so the pirates wouldn't touch him. It's like this, everybody yelled out Jinmu. The pirate was surprised. And Jinmu was already over the leader's head. Didn't anyone hear the center just go away? The pirates were surprised as the protagonist covered a distance of 15 m between their ships in a single jump. They assumed it was a legendary hidden water technique. The main character's sprawling, arrogant and quick-witted skills are also hard to pinpoint as they are often forgotten. How dare the guy give up on their ship without permission? What a no bastard. He will make sure that a guy who has nothing to do with the monarchs can't kill anyone else. All the pirates attacked the protagonist at the same time, but he didn't disperse, and with one swipe of his foot on the deck he tilted the ship. Because the ship was tilted, his subordinates lost the point of the belt, and Jin took advantage of the moment to jump when the ship was returning to its original position. No need to waste his strength on the meat of the small bipeds, thought the protagonist. Jinmu wanted to strike at the main pirate, but his sword was stopped by an elite squad of sky and water blockers. The pirates thought he was just a foolish novice, let his bravery be praised, but coming at them alone was a big mistake. They wanted to kill him and sink him along with his ships. The protagonist wanted to quickly deal with the Dunaktong, and another annoying fly loomed on the horizon. He would like to deal with them. It would take a little more time than it would on the Tidgets, but being a teacher, he'd never lose face. The pirates were surprised to see him using his vocal demeanor and his feet. Besides, he is also a teacher, but he is a novice of about 25. They didn't understand how that was possible. A massacre ensued in which the protagonist had no problem taking down all the pirates. The guy had the elite of the elite shrouded in the sky and water with an elephantine rag without even using the energy he freed. And all this using only hand-to-hand combat techniques. That's how he is, the pirates wondered. The pirate began to attack the guy. He attracts attention with a powerful first punch, swinging vertically. And while the opponent blocked, the second, horizontal, spreads his back. AA wanted to show him why he was nicknamed the Ruthless Dunaktong. Changed his mind he could lead his attack, but returned the first attack and began to attack himself. Already in the port, people were waiting and wondering what had happened at sea and whether the crew of the protagonist had been harmed. From one glorious moment it seemed that if Jinmu defeated the pirates, where were the 7 second-generation disciples? This victory would cause a stir and raise the Mutang's name. He acted like a monk, blinded by profit, and because of this he decided to sacrifice his talented younger brother. Prayed to God that Jinmu come back unharmed. That's it, I can't wait any longer. Send a letter by pigeon to Mutang. We need to organize a rescue party as soon as possible. Yes, Master. Finally, who do we have here? Blue Dragon Heavenly Sword, Master Jin Kue? The elder lord of the Zhuai's Takana family, Jukan Geek. The deputy head of the Isan Guild is Duokgi. Heard you came down from the temple in Takana, but I've been so busy due to the piling up of business, so I welcome you a little late. The Zhu family? It seems the He Guild ship still hasn't returned. What a misfortune, it makes one's willpower test. Thank you for your concern. We spoke, there was a dispute over the right to use the waterway. And, Deputy, you said you'd make some concessions. I beg your pardon. We may have bought the right of use in a hurry, but the Illinois He Guild doesn't understand why. But who would have thought they'd take such a risk and go to the capital? What? After Jinmu and his crew set sail, I've been on the crossing every day. But that's an exaggeration, not that often. Not once have I seen a single Isoi Guild ship leave the dock. We've been told that Dunaktong is a very bloodthirsty and inhumane rascal. He's been known to chop people in half. So why didn't they wait their turn and sail away from the port? Seems it was irresponsible and unconscionable on their part. Without an ounce of sympathy. Unsettling as to why they chose to run away from Mutang in front of other people. Pathetic behavior that has no concept of shame. Everyone knows very well that the Jew family is behind the guild and Sung is always interfering with Illinois High's guild. And this show is just to make the other two guilds that are also in alliance with Mutang think that they might get hurt just like Illinois High.